Week 5, Wednesday's assignment, Lesson 5. Here we have common denominators and equivalent fractions. Common denominators are the numbers at the bottom of a fraction. The numbers on top are called numerators. Equivalent fractions are fractions that are equal to each other. So we're going to be finding common denominators between two sets of fractions, and we're going to be rewriting them as equivalent fractions, okay? So there's no adding or subtracting in this, but this would be a good exercise for when you do add and subtract unlike denominators, okay? So we're going to go ahead and skip down to here, okay? We're going to skip those steps. I'm going to show you a different way to do it. It says use a common denominator to write an equivalent fraction for each fraction. So here you're going to have two answers, just like in yesterday's lesson. You're going to have two answers. You're going to put your common denominator here, and you're going to write two fractions here. You're going to write an equivalent fraction for the first one, 5/12, and you're going to write an equivalent fraction, an equal fraction to 2/9 here, separated by a comma. Now, there's steps to doing this, okay? And here are my steps. Step 1, finding common denominators. You need to write out the multiples of the denominators, of both of them. That bottom number, you're going to write out the multiples. You're going to write out multiples for 12 and 9, okay? I always like to start with the smallest number first and write out my multiples, and the largest number and write out my multiples. You can do it either which way you want, but as long as you write out multiples for both 12 and both 9. This is where knowing your multiplication facts come in handy, okay? The second thing you're going to do, you're going to circle that common number. Once you find out a common denominator between your multiples, you're going to rewrite your original fractions. So you're going to rewrite here. You're going to rewrite 5/12 and 2/9. And then you're going to write equivalent fractions. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. This will make more sense as we do some examples. So I have a few examples already ready to show you. And then we're going to do some actual in real time, okay? So I have 5/12 and 2/9 here, okay? All the work's already done here, but I'm going to show it to you in steps, all right? The first step was to write out my multiples for 12 and 9. I wrote out my multiples for 9, not all of them, but a pretty good chunk of them. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45. And then for 12, I have 12, 24, 36, 48. Okay, wrote out my multiples for my denominators. Like I said, I like to start with the smallest number first. You can do it either way. And then I write out my multiples, all right? And that's what step 1 says. Write out multiples of denominator, the bottom number. Circle the common number. Circle that common number. Which number was common between the two? Well, 36. 9 times 4 is 36. 12 times 3 is 36. So they have a common denominator now of 36. We're going to change this to a 36 and this to a 36. And that's how we get an equivalent fraction. Okay, so stay with me. Wrote out our multiples, found our common denominator, 36. We found that common number, and I wrote it out to the side here. Okay, now step 2 says rewrite original fractions. All right, so I did that here. 5/12, 2/9. Okay, all right, so I come over here and I write a 36 here because that's our common denominator. And then I write a 36 here, because that's our common denominator. Well, this 36, this 12 became a 36 by multiplying by 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 36. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. 12 times 3 is 36. I multiplied by 3 here. I have to multiply by 3 here. 5 times 3 is 15. Okay? So that's an equivalent fraction. 1536 is an equivalent fraction for 5/12. Now let's look at 2/9. Okay. I got 36 somehow. I multiplied by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you multiply the bottom by 4, you multiply the top by 4. 9 times 4 is 36. 2 times 4 is 8. Now an equivalent fraction for 2/9 is 8/36. So how you write your answer, it asks common denominator 36. So I'm going to write 36 here. Wrong side. Use a common denominator to write an equivalent fraction for each fraction. Well, 5/12 is 1536. 2/9 is 8/36. So there's your answer. Your common denominator is 36. The equivalent fraction, 5/12 turns into 1536. 2/9 turns into 8/36. Now let's look at number 2. 3/8 and 5/6. It's already done for me here, but we're going to work it out together. Steps are already done. Step 1 said write out the multiples. I wrote out my multiples for 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. And then I wrote out my multiples for 8, 16, 24, 32. Okay, I found my common denominator here of 24. Okay, so I circled it, wrote it out here. This is going to be my first answer, 24. Step 2 is to rewrite original fractions, 3/8 and 5/6. Okay, so I'm going to write 24 here and 24 here. This is usually blank right here. This is blank for now. You're going to see that when I do it in real time for you, okay? This 24 was possible because I multiplied 8 times 3. 1, 2, 3. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 3 times 3 is 9. So an equivalent fraction for 3/8 is 9/24. This 24 became possible because I multiplied 6 times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I multiply the bottom by 4. I multiply the top times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So 9/24 is equivalent to 3/8 because I multiplied it by the same number. 20/24 is equivalent to 5/6 because I multiplied it by the same number. So my answer is going to look like this. My common denominator was 24. My equivalent fraction, 3/8 is now 9/24. 5/6 is now 20/24. So that's your answer on that one. Okay, so let's do a real-time one. Let's go to this was page 9. Let's go to page 10. Okay, page 10 is that next page. It's the other page to your homework. And let's do number 2. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing we were just doing. You're going to use a common denominator to write an equivalent fraction for each fraction. Exact same thing we were just doing. All right. So I have 1/4 and 2/3. Step 1, write out multiples of your denominators. So I have 1/4 and 2/3. Write out multiples for my 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and I'm going to stop here at 18. Okay. 4 is 4, 8, oh, there we go, 12, and 16. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I can go ahead and do one more to 20, but I'm going to go ahead and stop. Because I found my common denominator of 12. I'm going to rewrite that here just like I did on that previous example. Okay, so step 1 was to write out multiples of my denominators. I did that. Find a common number, and I did that. So that answer 12 is actually going to go right here. Okay, that's our common denominator. Now we have to write an equivalent fraction. So I'm going to rewrite my 1/4 equals, I'm going to rewrite my 2/3 equals. Okay, so remember our common denominator is 12. Now that 12 is possible because we multiplied 4 times something to get 12. 1, 2, 3. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. An equivalent fraction for 3/12 is 1/4. 1/4 equals 3/12. That means equal. They're equivalent to each other. 3 became a 12 by multiplying it by 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. I multiply the bottom by 4. I'm going to multiply the top by 4, the numerator. 2 times 4 is 8. So there's my answer. An equivalent fraction for 1/4 is 3/12. An equivalent fraction for 2/3 is 8/12. You see a commonality here? 12, 12, and 12. Okay? So you're going to do that for 3, 4, 5, and 6. 7, 8, and 9 says use the least common denominator to write an equivalent fraction for each fraction. We've already been doing that because we could actually keep these numbers going all the way up to 24, and we could also use that number as well. It's still a common denominator. This is the least common, the smallest number that's the same. So that's what 7, 8, and 9 are saying, to do that. And you know what? We've been doing that. So just do these just like you did those. And then the number 10 and 11 is look no solve.